What's going on, everybody? It's Adam, and today we're going to be tackling an age-old question, at least as old as gaming is: graphics versus gameplay. Now, what made me decide to make this video was all the talk about Watch Dogs and how it's going to perform on next-gen consoles. And people were really kind of butthurt about the difference between 900p, 792p, and 1080p, like just resolution sizes. And it really got me thinking, like, really, does that matter in the long run? And truthfully, my opinion is no. And I'll give you some reasons why, and we'll kind of talk about why I think this whole debate's retarded. So, first of all, to defend my opinion, no. To me, this has nothing to do with the quality of a game. Graphics are good. That's great. I'm glad they've progressed so much in the last 30 years. And that's awesome. But really, what keeps me playing the game isn't the beautiful visuals. It's the gameplay and the graphics. A standout case for me in this is Skyrim. I could not get into Skyrim. It looks wonderful. It looked great. It looked beautiful. I have it on PC, and I play it as close to max settings as my PC can possibly handle. But I just don't enjoy the game. And that's not to say that Skyrim is a bad game, because it's won a lot of awards. It's loved by a lot of people. For me, it doesn't work. And graphics don't save that. Watch Dogs itself looks like it's going to be a very interesting game, and with the control you have over the world and the abilities you can get, I'm 100% okay with that not being full 1080p. Even some of the best games of the last generation, or I guess still kind of current gen, for the 360 and PS3, just an example, GTA 5. That game looked amazing, and it played amazing, and it was a great game. 720p. Let's look at a game from our current generation that, to me, is one of the better games in existence right now, and that's Titanfall. Now, regardless of whether you think Titanfall is the best FPS game or not, and I'm not saying it is of all time or anything like that, it plays well. It's a good working game, and it functions well, and the mechanics are there. But it's not a full 1080p game, and that doesn't bother me. So while there's definitely some difference in the textures and the resolution and the definition of the game, it really doesn't change the way you play it. Because this wall doesn't look as good as this wall in the PC version, doesn't change the fact that I'm going to jump through that window. And so my argument for this whole thing is that truly graphics are good, and I'd like to have great graphics, but to me, they don't really matter. As long as the gameplay is good and it's fun and it's not affected by negative graphics, which I don't think this is, then at that point, I'm happy. So the next part of this video is an argument that for the history of gaming, this is always the side that we've been on, and that really this whole argument is retarded. So let's take a look back at the console wars between Nintendo and Sega. So a prime example of this is this battle between Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Sega Genesis, from a hardware standpoint, from a capability standpoint, and from a graphics and processing standpoint, overall was a standout console. It was a 32-bit system versus a 16-bit system. They also had blast processing, which allowed for way faster processing of movements and motions and things like that. This was supposed to be the system that killed the Nintendo. Guess what? It didn't. Super Nintendo pretty handedly won the console generation, and truly Sega never really recovered, but that's another story for a different day. And the reason that you have Super Nintendo as a winner, part of it is probably because of the name, but also there were a lot of really amazing games that came out for the Super Nintendo. Just off the top of my head, some first-party titles: Super Mario World, amazing. The Legend of Zelda, I think it was Link's Awakening, amazing. You had Super Metroid, another amazing game that's first party. Mario RPG, an extremely underrated, amazing game. You had all these things that led to Super Nintendo's success over Sega Genesis. And it wasn't because Sega had better graphics that they lost. It was because their games weren't as good. They had good standout games like Sonic, and Vector Man was pretty fun. But for the most part of that, Nintendo made a better quality game. And so my argument again stands that graphics did not win that it was the gameplay that won. So let's talk about two examples from the current generation. I want to talk about Minecraft and League of Legends. Now, Minecraft is a game that is popular for its gameplay. The graphics for that game have a stylized look, but they're not great graphics. Even render distance, depending on this PC you're using or the current generation, is not great, and they never will be. It's not meant to be that kind of game. It's all about the gameplay. And the gameplay is what makes that a great game. It's the digging, it's the building, it's the crafting system. All these things about that game make it great. It's not the graphics and the possibility of graphics. It's the gameplay itself. It's that core mechanic. And the same goes with League of Legends. League of Legends is not a hard to run game for a PC. It's not the easiest, but the graphics aren't amazing. I mean, it's a top-down game. You've got somewhat 3D models, and you've got particles. I mean, that's it. Any mid-range computer that's been released for the last 5 years could probably run that game without any problems. But people don't go to it for that. They go to it because the gameplay is so addicting. People love the competition. They love the battling. They love finding builds for their characters. So again, two of the most popular games of the world are popular because of their gameplay, not because of their graphics. The conclusion of this video is that, in my humble opinion, graphics do not matter when it comes to the gameplay of a game. Gameplay is what sells games, and gameplay is what makes games successful. If you implement a shitty system over a 1080p graphics engine, it's not going to matter because people aren't going to want to play your game. Not to say that graphics aren't important, but gameplay is the king in my opinion. So, that's it guys. I'm wrapping up the video here. Tell me what you think and what your opinion is of this topic in the comments below. Once again, I'm Adam, and you guys take it easy.